few weeks ago, we did our entire regular season. We listed every team where they would rank, or where they'd finish, and then we went to the playoffs and made our playoff predictions as well.
Yes.
So now,
I don't think nothing changes on my end. I still think the teams that I had going into this are going to really be in it. That's the one change, actually. I had Toronto as first place. I'm going to go with Boston.
really interesting.
And I'll say that this is why it seems like there's a huge. I said it earlier in the show. Earlier this year, David Price fled to Boston, right? He left Toronto for Boston, free agent. No big deal, it happens. It's part of the game. This spring training, Toronto approached two of their star players, Bautista and Encarnacion. Bautista was approached. They brought him in for a meeting.
Yeah,
Purposely.
he set his price in years.
This is what I want, Price, and they just, no way, they just walked away. Same deal with Encarnacion. Those to me are red flags. And if they can't nail this down now,
It's weird. I mean, there's a new GM in town.
It's weird.
And maybe he's trying to say that you guys are part of the old regime. You're
possibly.
I don't know why you're going to piss off two guys that each hit 40 homers for you, but
well, that's why I'm
that is what happened.
Those are red flags. To me, it tells you that those players are probably already looking beyond 2016, just based on that negotiation, how everything just kind of fell apart. That's again, it trickles down and it starts at the top. I think it's going to end up costing Toronto a division.
It's very bizarre. It's strange how it was handled, and the truth is they didn't really... It's hard to replace an ace in general, but I think they could have done a bit more in the pitching world this offseason.
No, I agree. That's another thing, too. It seemed like they were pretty quiet in the offseason, like with free agents and whatnot.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they did a lot of building during the season last year that those guys are still lingering around, like Tulowitzki, for example.
But that doesn't make sense to me. Here's what's bothering me about it is that, all right, last year they spent some money. They did some retooling. Great. They spent no money, virtually pretty much no money whatsoever during the offseason this year. And now Toronto fails at re-signing two of their biggest offensive threats. And it's like, wait a second. Why isn't there any money?
It's a weird
you haven't
message.
spent anything.
Yeah.
And you didn't do, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
I just don't, something's not adding up here. That's a red flag. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's going to tear this team apart eventually. Like it's just coming apart at the seams. And that's why I think Boston will be in a position to just leapfrog.
Now, Boston had such a terrible season last year that adding Price is positive, but I don't know if that's enough for me.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. I could be. I'm wrong about a lot of
things. This is, but it's all fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And due respect to the Red Sox, they did pick up maybe the best pitcher around, best reliever around in Craig Kimbrell this offseason. So there's definitely a lot of talent going in back there. But the topic was if we're to change one item from our preseason predictions, what would it be? So for you, it would be putting the Red Sox over the
I know it's a weird pick, but I just don't like.
It's not. I mean, like we were talking about, Toronto doesn't have a super deep rotation. One of their pickups this year, for example, was Gavin Floyd.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So got Marco Estrada, J.A. Happ, got some contracts. Estrada was a re-signing.
I just think, when the front office starts bungling major contract negotiations with major players, that to me is a red flag that everything isn't as hokey pokey as we're painting it out to be.
Yeah.
And there's reason to be worried.
No, that's fair. And I'm less confident in the Blue Jays based on rotation, but I don't see anybody else in the division overtaking them still. I think Seattle is going to be much better than we gave them credit for, than I gave them credit for. And we've seen that the Angels they're dealing with some pitching issues big time. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Angels actually sunk all the way into fourth place. Ooh. Seattle went up to third. And really were much bigger players in that division than we were expecting. My one change that I would make is I can't believe, actually looking back, almost after I said it, why did I think so highly of the San Francisco Giants?
I know, same here.
I didn't like either of those signings when they happened. Weaver's no longer an ace. Angels rotation stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Weaver, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, he's got this degenerative issue in his back and his neck.
It looks like he's not playing this year.
He is, but he's not gonna. I think he's gonna have a very short leash. I think they'll need to give him a very easy workload. I thought he'd start the season on the DL to get more treatment, but I think he's actually starting the season with the club.
Wow.
But he's a guy that can barely pitch into the 80s anymore.
Yeah.
He's not an ace. And just for his own sake, his own health.
You got to focus on that, man.
And then C.J. Wilson was already a player far on the downswing of his career.
Yeah. What a bad
owed
sign.
a lot of money. I think the Angels were trying to trade him to anybody that would take him, and then he gets injured. So he's completely untradeable. He's just taking up money and showing the lack of depth. Hector Santiago, who I love because he came up with the White Sox, and he actually made the All-Star team with the Angels last year. He had an ERA over 5 in the second half after making the All-Star team.
That's the thing. Like, these are all Billy DePoto signings.
Yeah.
Right? Let's remember this. C.J. Wilson.
Jared Weaver?
The
extension?
No, the extension, but let's leave Jared Weaver out. If DePoto's not there, they're going to re-sign Jared Weaver anyways.
Yeah.
But DePoto is responsible for Pujols. Who's the guy? Hamilton, and also C.J. Wilson. All 3 of these players spent a significant amount of time in an Angels uniform on the disabled list.
The real change, I got to knock the Giants out of my playoff picture and put the Diamondbacks ahead of them, even as we acknowledge the new injury to Pollock.
You know what, though? I think that's so smart. I like that.
Thank you.
No, really. And here's why. I am a big fan of that because we talked about this earlier. Samardzija and Cueto, both big signings for the Giants, and their springs were weak, and that's a red flag for me, too. I think that's smart on your end. I'm going to give the Cardinals the benefit of the doubt because they are the champions from last year in the Central Division, in their own division. So they get top dog seat.